Welcome to the pod before the pod, hosted by PM Jen, who also hosts the following podcast, Hold It with PM Jen. Okay, enough goofing. Guys, this weekly nonsense is killing me. Doing this podcast every week is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I think I'm officially going to go to a bi-weekly setup. See, when I first started this, I actually recorded the whole season and then put it out. And season 2, I did kind of a hybrid. And season 3 just keeps going and going. And I would love for this to be weekly, for this to be part of my routine, and I can put this out every week. But I think for now, bi-weekly is going to have to be good enough. Today's episode is with Jamie Anderson, a realtor in Lancaster. She works with girls buy houses, and she came to me with a landlord emergency. She has a tenant in her property doing illegal drugs, moving people in that they shouldn't. He's also had payment problems, and we go through what is her solution going to be to this, and we go through it in a lot of detail. Some things to know. There is some tough love in this episode. Not too tough. I love Jamie, but she takes it like a champ. And this is just kind of a behind the scenes look at what a session with me, what investors go through when we talk through these issues, and I'm trying to prepare them and empower them. Another thing to know is, in addition to the tough love, we've got some tough vocab. This is not one to listen to around the kids. We're using property management real estate words, and they're harsh and cold, but they do convey the point quite well. So an explicit warning sticker on this episode. And at the very end, we lost Jamie. Her phone got too hot. She was on a property site, and that's just how these things go. Listen, if you like listening to me solve problems with people, I hope you'll let me know. Just write me an email, message me, and one of the million ways I still can read all my messages. Let me know you've got a problem and you might want to work it out here, and I'd love to record a podcast with you. All right, enjoy the show.
Razzle dazzle, we're the best.
No, the courts aren't on your side, but they're not on the tenant side either.
Jen,
You are independently wealthy when you are naked.
I am over treating property management the same as real estate sales.
I guess I'll lead the witness. I think it's freaking scammy. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for real estate investors who buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen, the show for investors who buy and hold forever and ever. And today we have a continuation of the format I've been rocking for a couple weeks now. I call it WWPMJD. What would PM Jen do? And until now, I've had these questions that come in on the forums, and I've told you a couple of my personal stories. But my dream is that I get to have the conversations I'm really having with investors. Listen, I have hundreds of clients I'm talking to every day, but because I make this podcast and I make videos and a newsletter and I've been doing this forever, people call me up. They email me. They go, Jen, help. Jen, this. Jen, I used your eviction video, and they have follow-up questions, and I love it. It strokes my ego. It lets me demonstrate my expertise, and I get to help people. And that's what I want to be doing, right, with this. Well, Jamie Anderson from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, called me up a week or so ago, and I actually told you a little bit about her story on a previous podcast, and the story's not over. And I said, Jamie, I want you to come in and talk to me about this on the podcast. So let's tell you a little bit about Jamie. He is a realtor with Iron Valley of York. She's active in fixing and flipping, buying and hold investing on her own, as well as serving all of these clients. One interesting thing about her is she works with an organization called Girls Buy Houses, and we'll hear a little bit more about that as well. And I'm going to tell you what I told her before we started recording. Jamie gets the Person of the Day award. She is willing to sit here with her full God-given face and God-given name and tell you what's going on in her rental business. And we're going to help her. We're going to put it straight today. We're going to make a plan, but it's not easy. And it's especially not easy who makes their living in real estate, right? To go, hey, I'm struggling with this thing that I think people just assume because I'm a whiz-bang sales agent and flipper and I do all this, that this other business of buy and hold would just come naturally. All right, I'll quit my yapping. That's what the kids say. We're yappers, Jamie. Us old ladies. Welcome to Hold It with PM Jen.
Hey, team.
She
Um,
goes, "Hey, team, I come hat in hand in a car full of
yeah.
signs."
I humbly come before you today, to tell you a story.
She's sitting in a car, listeners, that is just your classic on-brand realtor car. It's the seats are down, there's signs akimbo. She is a lady on the move today. She probably has like 3 closings this week. How many do you have this week? Any?
Well, no closings this week, but I had 2. Well, no, I lie. I had 2 this week. I like,
The
this week feels
busy
like
agent.
last week.
Those signs are from last week. She hasn't even gotten the signs for the closing this week yet out of the yards. Well, how did you get into real estate, Jamie, and how long's it been?
Yeah, I think that's really important to lay the foundation for the story itself. But so I actually did not get my real estate license until 2024.
Okay.
It was August of 2024 I got my real estate license. And I had had this particular rental property since 2018. So from 2018 to 2024, my knowledge of real estate, landlordism, very minimal, was pretty much just
Yeah, where
winging it.
did you go?
Just
Like,
winging it. I went
you
on Google,
literally
I typed in, "Hey, I need a PDF of a lease." And the first one that popped up, I was like, "Oh, this looks great," which is the one that you saw.
yep,
And then you can kind of see how my real estateism evolved over time because the other leases eventually, like with different people, have evolved over time. And should I have updated, this particular lease? Of course. Do I know that? Also, of course. But internally, I'm thinking, okay, I'll do it later. I got more important stuff right in front of
yeah,
me. Like, we have this, we have this, we have this. We'll update it later. Well, now, fast forward, now we have an actual problem. And it's like, you know, you only have yourself to blame here. You should have updated it when you knew in 2024 about all of these different things you could be doing. But for me, I was just like, oh, well, we'll
yeah,
figure it.
very normal. And how did you get the property?
So that's actually a very interesting story. This particular property, I am in recovery, struggled with alcoholism. So I had gone to a halfway house in York that's run by a guy named Bob Allen. The name of it is Life Speaking. Anyway, he wasn't really taking women at the time. There were only like 2 other women at this house, but he had taken me on. And in a very short time, I became pregnant. A tale as old as time. um, and he was like, well, we're going to have to get a women's house. So he gets this house right across the street. He's like, "We're gonna turn it into a duplex, so that way you and the baby can be downstairs, and we'll keep the rest of the women upstairs." I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing! Thank you so
Yeah.
much." 3 months into that, he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, will you take over the lease? Like, do you want to take over the lease for this property?" And essentially, what that looked like is he had used a hard money lender, so every month I was paying the interest on the money that was borrowed, and it was now like my hard money agreement. And I worked tirelessly for 18 months to be able to prove to a financial institution that I could afford this $60,000 house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is 2018. I'm like 27 at the time. 28, well, 27 or 28. It would have been like right around there.
Yeah.
And I have like no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like, okay, I've been handed this house. I have to get a job, like a real job, because I was using this house to be a stay-at-home mom, which had
Um,
worked for, a year. And I was like, okay, well, we really got to work towards buying this house because they're telling me I need like 2 years worth of rental income to be able to prove anything on that side. And we're running out of time here. We got to hurry up because I think the balloon was 2 years.
mm,
So that's how I got that house. I did eventually prove and bought it.
okay.
Yeah.
And you've been operating it, like, do you still live there?
No.
Okay. So you no longer still live there. You've been renting it to tenants on long-term traditional leases since?
Yeah, pretty much. I moved out of that particular house in 2022. in
Okay.
2022. So from 2018 to 2022, I lived there in the downstairs apartment, the one that we're currently talking about, actually.
Okay, great. And before we get into the problem, I want to, how did we meet? Because I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that as well.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a part of an organization called Girls Buy Houses. We're not all girls. We do welcome boys. We only have like one right now, but nevertheless, the real important part of joining this particular group is that we want to see people whose morals, values align with our own. Because, as you may know, not all investors, not all flippers, not all renovators are created equal.
Yeah.
Um, and so we really wanted to set ourselves apart. So we have this own little group in York, Pennsylvania. You can look us up on Facebook, Instagram. We have a website, but we do hard money lending on investment properties. A lot of us do flip ourselves. Um,
You're flipping.
yeah, I'm outside of one of my projects right now because I had to drop off paper. You know that paper that like protects the flooring?
Yes. You don't see that in every reno, but you see that in the ladies' renos, I think. Oh, I just
So
have to get my little digs in where I can. Okay, so you guys are really involved in that, and you run these meetups, and you guys were part of my speaking tour last year. You invited me to your
yes.
meetup down in Lancaster, which I love. I love meeting anybody in real estate, but I especially like meeting groups of women. I find I'm just so at home there, and those are my kind of girls. Well, listen, what was going through your head at 8:30, like, let's say it was a week ago at night, you sent me an email that said, "Jen, SOS." We had met at a meetup, we're connected on social media, I get an email at 8:30 that goes, um SOS, can you give me a call? And you, being in real estate, would have probably called right away. Me, being in property management and a bit of a bee, I work banker's hours. So I was a little like, listen, if it's not fire, flood, or blood, I'll call at 8 a.m., right? Like, I'll call at 9 a.m. And then I was on Instagram, like a half hour later, on my couch in front of the TV, doing nothing, like being a lazy bones. And I didn't know that on Instagram it says when you're on, because I'm an Instagram newbie. So then I get a chat from you like, "Hey girl, SOS. I need to talk." And I went, "This girl needs PM Jen." So I called you up. And what was going through your head? What was happening? Tell me about the story so that everybody can get caught up.
Oh man. Okay. So I messaged you around 8:30. I got a call at 8 from the upstairs tenants
Okay.
who were letting me know that the downstairs tenant, they were asking me if I knew that he had moved in his mother over the weekend. And at that point, that was my moment, the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, no, I didn't know. I had no idea because nobody told me. Because apparently we just do whatever the fuck we want around here.
And you're not a nut. It's not like this was the first straw on your back. What were the other straws? Like, why were you at your wits' end with the report of his sweet little mother moving in? I mean, you must
Yeah.
be some kind of monster, Jamie.
It's been like an accumulation of things over time, probably over the last year, I would say. So
Okay.
it started out with
Well, let's start with when did they move in? How long have they been a tenant?
they have been a tenant since backstory. This rental caught on fire in 2023. I had the whole place redone. It was ready to be rented out at post renovation in 2024. So this person has been a tenant since May of 2024.
If you like this podcast, you're going to love my newsletter. I know newsletters start out useful and then they get annoying, but I promise mine isn't. It's short, it's real, and it's written by me, so you know it's not boring. No spam, just one email a week, well, most weeks, from a property manager who's seen it all and can't wait to share it with you. The subscribe link is in the podcast description. I'll see you in your email.
So 2 years, because we're recording in May of 26, but you report in the last year you've been having. First year, fine. Second
Yeah,
year
first
problem.
year, I have no complaints. Um, Second year, we go into the second year. All of a sudden, we're having multiple months where I'm getting messages, like a couple days in advance, like, "Hey, Jamie, just want to let you know, like X, Y, and Z happened, so I won't have rent to you till this day."
Okay.
And it would be so on my lease agreement, I believe I have a grace period of like 5 days. So it's not like you pay on the first or you're getting a phone call. It's okay. I understand everybody's pay period works a little differently. Not everybody is financially sound in that way. So
Correct.
you have until the fifth. After the fifth, every day it's $20 extra. So he
Actually, actually, according to your lease, you do have a 5-day grace, but weirdly, the late fee isn't charged until 7 days after the first. So really, it's a 7-day grace, and a late fee is $20. It's not indicated per day or per occurrence. It's
it just said
blank.
$20.
But I
That's
would
what I'm
guess you
talking about, Jen.
I would guess you've never charged it. Despite these late rent payments, he was notifying you, and in your opinion, it was within a reasonable time period, and you were accepting of it, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was, like,
Okay.
literally, like, max 2, 3 days, like, it was never anything crazy. I've
Past
had
the
people
5th.
lose jobs and be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna have rent, but I will pay you back." I literally just had that, and I was like, "Hey, listen, shit happens, like, I am very understanding, like, if you're saying that this is when you can pay me back, we'll address any problems if that day comes and you don't start paying me back."
Right.
And that person did, paid me back, and now they put in their month notice, they moved out a little bit ahead of time, and I was like, "Cool, cool, cool." And now renovations start on that apartment, no problems, but this guy, a couple days late but it was happening every month, and I'm like,
Okay.
"How c" and it was always something like, "Oh, I lost my job and I started a new one, but I don't start till this day," or, "Oh, the temp agency found out about my criminal record, now I gotta start a new job, and, there's a training period and da 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 da." It was always something.
But it sounds like by mid-month, you were getting paid.
Correct, yes.
So if it was due on the 1st, you knew by the 15th you had it. You didn't find a need to do late fees, but you were getting irritated. Sounds like you have a tolerance for this once in a while, but if it becomes a habit, well, that's not in the spirit of the agreement.
Yeah, so it was just
Okay.
like something's not feeling right about this. So one day, the upstairs tenants call me and they're like, "Hey," because everybody in that house is in recovery because that's kind of my shtick. Like and to my detriment maybe, but this
Yeah.
is like literally since 2018, this is the real first problem child I've actually had. I mean, there was one incident besides this one that involved a cat. And you can go ahead and use your imagination with that um, that had to be addressed. But this, a real, just continuous problem child.
Okay.
So I think that's a W. But anyway, I specifically am geared towards running to individuals with criminal records or in recovery. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So this is par for the course. I get this call from the people upstairs, also in recovery, and they're like, "Hey, just want to let you know, I'm pretty sure the person downstairs is actively using drugs." And I'm like,
And
that
would this
is starting to make everything makes I was like, I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner.
so help a person like me out. Like when they say I'm pretty sure, what is this based on? What sort of evidence do they have?
Okay,
Is it a
so
smell? Is it a
apparently there was an incident where they watched this person back into the fence and it kind of knocked a couple boards off. I let that one slide because the fence on that side is a little older. I was like, whatever, it should be replaced anyway.
Okay.
Then there was, like, he's up late at night looking like he's staring directly into the sun. Um, I was like, And what do you think? Like, if you had to choose a variety, which drug is he using, do you think?" And they're like, "We're pretty sure it's probably amphetamines." And I'm like, "Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And
Okay,
when was
amphetamines."
this? When was these reports coming into you? How long ago?
Probably, I would say January.
Okay, so at the beginning of the year, you've had late rent for a while, but you're dealing with it. Now you're hearing we might have some drug use downstairs, and that is That's what's gonna get you excited. You're not excited about the rent being a little late. You're excited about that violation of the agreement.
Yes, now we have a serious problem. And so I was like, why didn't you guys tell me sooner if you've known it? Because they were like, yeah, this has been a thing for like probably 6 months to a year. And I'm like,
Oh.
I was like, what? I was like, why am I just now finding out about it? And they were like, well, we were really hoping that, and I was like, okay, 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 okay. Understandable. I was like, all right. So where do we go from here? Because obviously this is a you might think I've dealt with this a couple of times, and I have back when they were renting out rooms up there, but never where it was like a long-term person who had been there for a while and who had had time. Like when this person moved into my house, I believe they had 5 years. So I
I
was thinking in
see.
my mind, this person is probably the most stable of the bunch. He's going to be the least problematic. Like this is great. The people upstairs had about a year, which in my mind I was like, this is a gamble. They've been great. They pay me like the one girl pays me for the next month, like a month early.
So you are feeling, did you address this with your tenant?
Yeah, I text him. I'm like, "Hey, can you meet me at the house? At this time on this day." I go there, we meet,
Why
I
did you
talk to him
choose an in-person meeting? That's interesting.
because I just wanted to like. I feel like for me personally, I can lie to anybody over the phone,
Oh.
but if you ask me to my face, I'm a terrible. Like I'm the worst liar you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I mean, I can say the words, obviously,
Yeah.
but my face, forget it.
Okay. So you felt like you were gonna have a more honest interaction with this person eye to eye.
Face to face. Yes.
Okay. And you went in, what was your goal of that conversation?
I was like, in a perfect world, he will admit that there's something going on here and, that he needs help and, we'll figure it out. That's
Oh,
not what happened.
you were hopeful. So that's really important, Jamie, because I have to tell you, if I was going into that conversation, I'm trying to find out what's going on. And if there's something I don't like, I'm figuring out how to end the housing. You were like, if there's something going on I don't like, I want to be a support to this person and help them get back on the right track. Right? Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
I
that's very generous of you. So you had, well,
I
I,
already know what you're thinking.
I
You're like,
do.
"That's very generous."
Well, because it is so well meaning. It is You are coming to this like so many women in real estate come to their decisions. There is a dollars and cents and the investment and the ROI, but we don't discount other returns that come from our decisions. And you are, like you said, I've decided with my buy and hold real estate, I'm going to support this thing I value, which is second chances for people rebuilding their lives, right? In a new way with a new way of doing things. That is what women do. They go, how can this real estate support me and my dreams? And how can it support the other people that it touches? So I just don't want to like gloss over that. I want to call that out. And that's why, my friends, I profile honest, ballsy women on this show because they share what's going on without fear of reprisal or judgment. Okay, so you go into this conversation in the hopes that you're going to suss out what's going on honestly and be a force of good. What happened in that conversation?
I approach him. I say, "Hey, I am pretty sure this is what's been going on. Do you want to tell me anything?" He was like, "No, no, no, no. It's just, I mean, I'm using marijuana, which was not, and it was never something I said, hey guys, in recovery and, with criminal records, you can absolutely use marijuana here. Like, that was never a thing. That was never a thing." So I asked him, I was like, "Do you have a medical card? Like, is this to treat some sort of medical condition?" He's like, "No, I don't have my medical card." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so crazy because I cannot believe you wouldn't have come to me and said, hey, thinking about pursuing this method of recovery before you just went and full sent that." But okay.
Yeah,
So we're
and for
having
the
this
record,
conversation.
everybody, we're in Pennsylvania, so no recreational marijuana here. The only legal means is through a state-issued medical card. So what she's saying here is he's both breaking the law and violating her lease, page 6, smoking policy, very dutifully checked off. Smoking is prohibited on the property. Good job. A plus.
We got one. Yes.
All right. So he says, I'm smoking a little weed up here. And what did you say?
And I, let him know, like, okay, that's great, but also, like, not a really a thing. And I don't really believe that that's all that's happening. I was
Okay.
like, honest. I told him, I was like, you're only going to be as honest as you can be with me, and that's perfectly fine. But just know that I know, that there is probably more going on here. And I told him, I said, I am more than willing to get you a storage unit, pay for people to get your stuff out of here if you go to treatment.
Oh, wow.
I was like, if that is something you're willing to do, I will do that.
How well do
He's
you know this person, Jamie?
I've known him probably for since I got sober, so over a decade.
So you know him through the program you work and the community you hang out with. Would you say
Yeah.
that you're friends?
I would have said that he was engaged previously to someone that I would have considered a friend.
Okay. So an acquaintance, a friend of a friend kind of
Yeah.
situation. Okay. So you've had a long history of knowledge of this person. And when was this conversation?
This was probably I want to say February.
Okay. So in February you're confronted with now he's smoking something in there. He's kind of halfway fessed to it. We have the complaints. What have you been doing between February and early May?
Well, essentially, when I brought that up to him, he flexed on me hard and was like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure you can't do that because the way it was worded was pretty much like you won't be living here anymore. Like I'm going to move your stuff out. I'll pay to do it if you go to treatment." He's like, "I'm pretty sure you can't do that," and da 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 and blah blah blah. And in my mind, I'm like, I cannot fucking deal with this right now. I cannot deal with this right now.
Because what's going on in your world? You're a busy realtor, but you've got what's going on? I mean, you got a
I have a
kid, all the stuff.
three-year-old, I have a nine-year-old, I am in the middle of a flip project, I'm also a part of Girls Buy Houses, like, I'm running around, I'm doing things. I have just so much on my plate that it feels like my head is going to explode, like, all I needed this in that moment, I felt like, "All I need you to do is say yes. I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about a thing.
Right.
I'll handle it,"
Can I
But
ask
he
this
was like
whole this whole bargain of like I'll move your stuff out into a storage unit that I guess you would be paying for and him going to treatment, like is this is a real offer you had? You were willing to back this. Have you
Yeah,
ever done
no.
that for a tenant before?
I have never done that for a tenant because I've never had someone be in a position like this. Like before, it's been people who have come to this house with like renting rooms, right? A couple trash bags. It was fully furnished rooms, so that furniture was mine. So
Mm,
to go to treatment wasn't really a big undertaking. They were like, "Yes, we'll do it. All right, take your bags, go to treatment. From treatment, they go to another recovery house." And like I let them know, like, "Hey, like if you get a few months under your belt, like give me a call. I'll see if I have a room, like, and we'll work it out." This is a little different. All the furniture in that house is his furniture. I did not provide that.
okay.
That's a lot of items, so in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, I could see where that would be, like, a deterrent," but he was like,
Yeah. And so
"You
when he
can't do
flexed on
that,
you,
like, do I need to contact a lawyer?" "Do I need to contact a lawyer?" I was like, "Okay, well, let me tell you how things are gonna go now that you have flexed on me and started dropping lawyer talk. This is how we will do things moving forward." I said, "If I do not have your rent by the 5th, you can expect eviction processes to start on the 6th." He hasn't been late since.
and so you had that conversation in, say, February. He flexed on you. You kind of flexed back. You seemingly solved the one compliance issue, which was late payments, right?
Yeah, and got another one.
And now and so the only new thing was so we know he's using drugs, which is a problem for you, and he's using them in the home. Um, Now the rent's on time, but now you get a call last week that's like, "Mom has moved in."
Yes.
Okay. And I asked you in that call, what do you want? Like, what would be a win here? You're realistic to know that nothing you can do or say or letter you can write can make him get sober, get his mom out of there, and be a successful tenant moving forward. Like, this has gone too far. And we know the nature of drug addiction is that we landlords alone are not the answer. So, that's not it. What did you say you want?
I wanted him to no longer be there.
Yeah, you want the
Or his
property back.
mother. I don't want either person.
Yes. You tenant et al, right? When you fill out the things, you're gonna have to use the et al because that means and others, even if you don't know their name. Maybe you know mom's name. Okay. So I told you, like, we had a conversation about this. I learned about the situation. I didn't learn as much as I did in this conversation about how much your real estate plays in like this recovery work that you do, this support you want to give to people, which is wonderful, but it does complicate things a little bit. Um, One is I'm gonna ask you to not make offers like that, mixing the housing and the treatment offer together again.
Okay.
I believe here's why. You're a licensed real estate salesperson in the state of Pennsylvania. And as such, you're held to a different standard in regards to these agreements. I think working off script like that is a liability to you. And I say that to you as a young woman who I know is working very hard and has made a nice life for herself, but she doesn't have fuck you money yet. She doesn't have 100 houses under her belt that she owns free and clear, that she can use her money to support her mission in a fearless way. I think you need to have a bit more fear about that. So it's not about working with these people from this population. I think that's fine. There's no issue with that. I think where you have trouble is where, as a landlord, when you're enforcing your lease, you're making decisions about what would cause a landlord tenant complaint, a lease violation, a non renewal. When you start mixing the treatment, the recovery stuff into that, that is coded disability, right? People who suffer
Mhm.
from that are disabled by the definition of that in our country. I don't like adding all of that disability stuff to a real estate transaction and your state license. Because while I am not an attorney, I'm especially not yours, nor yours, listener. I just know enough to see red flags, liability, and issues there. Read enough cases, know enough to know I shouldn't be mixing that stuff up. So it's up to you whether you decide to do that or not. But I think his flex on you was a red flag that that's probably not a move you want to be doing in the future. Now, listen, the rooming house situation where but this is a more traditional rental you're talking about. They're
Yeah.
leasing the property. Yeah. And there is nothing in your lease agreement that talks about treatment or requirements to stay sober, nor should it. How would we
Okay.
ever prove that, right? Yeah, I'll tell you a quick little story. I have a client I worked with for years. He leads a congregation, a church, and it's growing. It's got a couple churches now, and he called me up and he goes, "Well, we're buying this 4-unit building and we're looking for a manager." I was like, "Fantastic. Love you guys. Love your taste and all that." He goes, "But the people who live in this are going to be part of our like a pastorship program, like becoming pastors, right? And so there's a spiritual requirement of these people as part of this housing, right? And I don't even know what that is, but in their program, they have to kind of be successful. You can compare it maybe to an academic program. That's part of their like living in this property." And I said to them, "Guys, I love you, I mean it, and I love real estate, but I cannot get involved in something where terms of the housing are not business law contract based. I can't." And so we're going to hopefully work together while we do market rate tenants as they fill it with their students, so to speak, and then eventually it'll be theirs to run. Okay. So that was the first thing I heard, that if you're a listener listening, I would take that away from this, is that when we mix that stuff up, and folks, if you have a real estate sales license and you're engaging in your own personal transactions, know that all of those come with so much more scrutiny when the stuff hits the fan. You want the property back. We looked at the lease. It is in month-to-month terms, so I did the review. It is properly indicated here. You have month-to-month terms. We're recording on May 13th. I think we talked last week at the beginning of May, and my instruction to you is if your goal is to have this property vacated, we need to terminate this lease. And even though it's month to month, it's not like, hey, on May 4th, I can give you a notice for June 4th. Instead, it would be for the end of a rental period, which in a month-to-month lease would be the last day of the month. So if on the 4th of May or today, the 13th, we were to give notice for the end of this month, that's not enough notice. So the earliest termination date, if we took action today, would be the end of June, June 30. And we got to talking about that, and you had some opinions on that, right? On the timing of all of it. What were you thinking about?
The best investment you'll ever make is in your own knowledge. That's why I refer people to Mallory Mahan, also known as Prof M and owner of Inspire Wealth Education. Prof M is a Penn State real estate professor, attorney, creative financing, and tax specialist. She's the rare person who can explain a tax strategy, structure a deal, and tell you the why behind both. And she's one of the good ones, not a guru, not a skeezy coach, and that's what matters most when I refer people for education. Prof M's Inspire Wealth education classes are practical and actually designed to help you succeed in real estate investment. My affiliate link to check out the classes is in the podcast description. Smart investors hire smart people. Be one of them. And thank you for supporting the show.
So I was thinking more like the end of August, like August 31st.
Okay. And why? What makes that more appealing to you than earlier?
Well, because it creates less on my plate.
Yes,
It
because this transition, while this person has to go find new housing, you have to turn over the unit, deal with their security deposit, find and
mow the
attract a new
yard.
tenant, and get them onboarded and placed. It's a lot of additional work for you. When I said just deal with it this way and write this letter and do this, uh, the wheels were turning. But if I do that, then okay. And the question I had back to you was, got it. Like when you look at your calendar and open it up, you go, when do I want to deal with a big pile of bullshit? Well, it isn't July 1st, that's for sure. I'd rather do it September 1st, right? Because then the future is further. And my question to you was, got it, rocket. That works for you. How is holding on to this risk with an active drug user, a tenant you don't have on a lease, and a history of late payments going to go for you over the summer? And it gave you a little bit of thought. What are you thinking today?
Well, today I would like to give everyone who's watching out there, including you, a really great picture of what I have going on
Okay.
right now. Today, May 13th, I purchased my own house. I have painters in there. I'm trying to schedule flooring. Oh, but wait, the water company said they needed to switch out the meter. So guess what? I had to be there for that. And guess what else? Did I say to myself, oh, I better check the water meter guy's work because I know about water meters. I don't. Um, the next day, 24 hours later, I go to my brand new house with that has a $3,000 mortgage and I go into the basement and guess what? There's a whole bunch of water down there. Oh my God. Now what do we have to do? So now I'm running around trying. Keep in mind, I'm a one-man band, people. One-man band. I don't have a property manager. I don't have a transaction coordinator. I don't have a ledger.
Yeah, she's saying that because I asked for the account ledger for this tenant, and she goes, "You're getting a lease. There is no ledger." And I said, "Got it."
I have rental units. I just got notification that my one tenant who I thought was going to be moving out at the end of the month moved out sooner. So now I'm scheduling contractors for that apartment, trying to get that one moving because that one's actually empty. And I have to worry about, like, at the end of the day, I just took on this really big financial burden. Well, I don't even want to know if I want to call it a burden. It's a mortgage, which I have not had for the last 2 years. So right now, my main focus is the movers come at the end of the month. I need painting. I need flooring done before the furniture goes in the house. I have this empty unit that I told you about. I'm having to mow the yard at my new flip project that I'm at and make sure those contractors are doing what they need to be doing because come hell or high water, that one needs to be done by July 31st. Keep in mind that date, July 31st.
Okay, your flip has to be done by July 31st. Okay.
Yes, because in my mind, if I'm gonna make the maximum profit, that would need to happen.
Okay.
So I have all of these things going on, and in my mind, oh, 3-year-old, 9-year-old, 9-year-olds in softball has games every Tuesday and Thursday. I have showings going on. I have things that are under contract that I have to keep track of. Like I'm just one woman hanging on by a fucking thread right now. And to
Yeah.
add one more thing on there by choice?
Uh-huh. It's very difficult. I hear you on this, and your your situation is extreme because you have them coming. It's not like you have one big job. You have 10 medium-sized jobs, right? Um it's hard for people to understand, but I'll tell you, this is what I hear all the time from people is, "This isn't a good time, this isn't a good time," and I go, "The problem with your investment in it not being a good time is you're only cheating yourself, and it depends on how hard on yourself you are about these things, about your vacancies, about your risks, and things like that." So, my best advice is to deal with these risks in a prompt and urgent way. But I hear you, you're going, "Jen, I'm gonna break. If I turn around and give this guy notice and I'm sitting on another vacant in July, I'm gonna have had it up to here," right?
Yeah, and in my mind, I feel like, okay, the movers are coming May 31st. Once we're moved, once the kids are like settled in and I have that off, I can then add something because something is off. So now something can come on.
So, in a perfect world, if you had not a crazy schedule, you'd be doing what I advise, which is give them the termination now, get it back the end of June and deal with it. You wanted to go to the end of August, but what I'm hearing now is that the flip is scheduled to be done end of July. Are you willing to park it on the end of July?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. You now have to do the tasks related to terminating this lease, which is you write the termination. My biggest hints are you send it 6 ways to Sunday. What does that mean? I'm going to email it. I'm going to text it. I'm going to print it out and put it on the door. I'm going to mail it regular mail. I'm going to mail it certified. No way you're going to say, Jen didn't send me this. Then I take it a step further and I actually communicate with them on a weekly basis until I get confirmation that they've heard it. Why? Because at the end of that notice period, I don't want to show up to a guy eating his Cheerios in his boxer shorts like, "You were serious?" And I've had that experience. Like, I don't want that. I don't want him to be getting to acceptance while as a holdover tenant. Holdover is what we call people who live in the property post the lease being terminated. So if you terminated the lease for July 31st and this tenant's there on August 1st, the term for that is holdover tenant. Okay. So we're ready to talk about giving this notice to him 6 ways to Sunday, and we're not going to give a reason. That is my second biggest piece of advice. Jamie, the landlord, has a month-to-month lease with her tenant that she is no longer willing to renew. Period. Full stop. Do you feel okay about that, Jamie, or do you feel like giving a reason's going to be better for you?
No, I feel like I can do
Good.
that. I can do
Yeah,
that.
most times when I talk to people, they want to give reasons, couch it, make it softer, make it less blunt, and I go, "You're just giving them something to argue against. Do not do it. And do not work to make it easier. Deal with requests for lenience, deal with requests for extensions, deal with requests for whatever as they come. Don't volunteer them." That's something we talked a little bit about. You had some ideas about how you might go about doing this, and all of them involved way too much generosity for the situation. All right. So we're going to terminate it for July 31st. Let's talk about, do we terminate it today, mid-May, or do we wait? So the last possible day you should deliver that would be July 1st for July 31st. That's the least amount of notice. The most amount of notice you could give is today. Do you have any feeling about whether you should do it sooner rather than later?
I don't think there's any drawbacks to doing it sooner other than I know as soon as that piece of paper is on his door, am going to get an onslaught of phone calls and questioning,
From
which
whom? From
from
the
him.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm ready to deal with the denial stage at this point in the game because I'm liable to just block his phone number, and I don't know if that's right either.
Sure. Probably not block him because you don't want to be cut out of communication with the tenant that you have here. So you're fearful of the phone call that's like, "What the fuck, Jamie? I thought we were cool, right? Like, now you
Eh,
take away my house and reason. You're
yeah.
you know, um and you're feeling like in that moment you're going to be unable to withstand it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to react. That is my number one thing that I want to avoid, and unfortunately, I know, and the reason why I know I will react that way is because I've already had issues come up with, like, other projects that I have going on right now where I have gotten out of character with individuals,
Girl,
and I've
same.
had to go back and be like, "Hey,
Sorry.
my bad, dude." I wanna be in a place mentally where I know I can go into that conversation, calm, cool, and collected, and just be like, "I'm sorry you feel that way. Unfortunately, this is the move out date."
So, one thing you could do is announce your intention to keep communication in writing in that termination. So you could state, "Hey, this is my decision to terminate your lease," follow it with some move out instructions, and then say, "And I'd like to transition to written communication at this point via email and letter or whatever you're comfortable with. Um, and specifically what you're not okay with. I'm not okay with voice phone calls and I'm not okay with text messages, something like that, right? Which is setting you up for success. Now, that doesn't mean that that person's going to abide it, but you do get to choose whether or not you press accept on the phone call, whether you call them back, and how you choose to issue. So if you've said that, and what I would probably do is, listen, I wouldn't do that because I'm not fearful of the phone call and I could handle it. Well, truthfully, the 15 people I pay handle it every day. And when I'm involved, I'm supposed to pop off. They're calling the popper offer when I'm called in. But I think for you, it could be a good move. It sets your intention, and then you can have less guilt when the phone's ringing, and you're ignoring. Maybe taking in all the communications from a day or two. Say he leaves you 6 voicemails and 20 texts. You can watch that emotion wave go through and then respond with, "I'm in receipt of all your communication. The questions you asked were this. Here are my answers. Thank you so much. Again, I'd prefer to keep things in writing." Like, all you're doing at this point is saving yourself and preparing for conflict in the future, which a judge would be reading, right? Because if you two can't figure it out, the only other person who gets a say as a judge is the district magistrate. Not your lawyers, not your moms, not even me, not even PM Jen. And all I'm doing is preparing you to meet an attorney if you two can't handle this.
Yeah.
So there's an argument out there, though, for giving less notice. So I'm a personal proponent of, if I'm going to terminate a lease, to giving more notice. And when I give my notice and I truly want them out, I'll give them the option of like, "Hey, here's your notice of 2.5 months. The lease is going to be terminated as of July 31st. And as such, if you want to leave earlier than that, I won't hold you to any notice requirement, just the rent through the day you have possession." So if I call it a win if I send that letter and 3 days later they call and say, "You'll have the keys at the end of May." All right. No harm, no foul, right? You're leaving of your own volition. It's happening. That might be a risk to you, though, because you don't want it back early. You don't want that house on May 31st or even June 30th, right? The other thought that people have when they talk about procrastinating on a termination is that the tenant would stop paying rent. So, upon receiving a lease termination in mid May, how likely am I to pay you promptly in June or July? And then you'd be facing an eviction action. Because what you're not going to do is just sit back and go, "What can I do?" No, we will start like you threatened. If that rent is late, I'm starting the eviction process. I'm starting the process.
Should I put a blurb about that
No,
on the okay.
because that exists due to the Landlord Tenant Act. You in your lease do not have a waiver of the notice to quit. So for non-payment, you will be issuing a 10-day notice. And you have a choice. You do have a 5-day grace in your lease. I think for your first filing on this tenant, it would be prudent to wait to do your notice to quit until the 5th. So, like, let's pretend you gave the notice today and June 1st comes and you didn't get the rent. On June 6th, you'd be posting the notice to quit and starting the process. Guys, I made a 3-part video series on YouTube all about this. Jamie has it, but I'll real quick review. She's going to do a 10-day notice to quit, post it on the property. In my videos, I give you examples of those. And let's just use the month. So June 1st, you didn't get rent. June 6th, Saturday, you post it. The 11th day from there, you will file at the landlord, a landlord tenant complaint at the district magistrate's office. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 days is the 16th. 17th would be without having received the rent in full. You would be filing for non-payment of rent. You'd have a hearing within 7 to 15 days. Let's think down there in Lancaster County is where this is.
This one's in York.
Okay. In York, 2 weeks. You're not going to have a hearing till July 1. You'll get judgment for your unpaid rent. There'll be a 10-day appeal period. You would be filing the order of possession on July 13th. 10 days from there, you have your property back the 24th of July. So, in a non-payment of rent scenario, not paying June, you don't have your house back legally until July 24th. So that's something to think about as do I give the notice now or do I give the notice sometime in June? Do I wait until the second I get that June rent, hit them with it, and mess around if I don't get my money in July?
Hey, real quick, I'm just a property manager in central Pennsylvania. It's not that serious. I'm not running a media empire. I don't have a team of producers. It's just me, a microphone, and this incredible belief that I can help you. Which is why every single review, newsletter subscription, and email that you send me matters. Like, a lot. So if this show has helped you, even a little, here's what would mean the world to me. You can hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. You could leave a rating or review. Even one sentence helps so much. You could come find me on YouTube and LinkedIn and subscribe and follow me there.
I got to tell, having spoken all that out, if it were mine, based on what I know, I'm probably going to get that June rent in hand, and that's when I'm going to terminate this lease. I don't want to fight about June. At least I know I'm in my house, right? You said your move date's the end of May. I'm
Yeah.
in my house. I can light this fire now. I've put out one. Let's light this one and start that. How does that feel doing a termination once you receive June's rent?
That feels more reasonable
Okay.
for my current schedule.
Okay. And knowing full well, right? He could skip out. He could get out of there before he has to pay you June. So you're looking at getting the property anytime between when he said he would and when he leaves. I wanted to touch on the not giving a reason because sometimes people struggle with that. And the thing that always shuts them up is that month-to-month lease. You have the ability to terminate it anytime you want, and so does the tenant. And we don't hold the tenant to a good reason or to a good time for the landlord. So this person can leave this house because they hate you, because they got a new job, because they're sick, because they can't afford it, because they can afford more. Any reason they want. Any reason. You similarly do not owe them a reason to terminate that lease. So I'm going to take some of that guilt away. So you're going to terminate this lease. And then what happens? You're going to do it for July 31st. What happens on August 1st, which is a Saturday, by the way? I hate that for you because if that tenant hasn't returned possession to you by midnight of the 31st, what you need to do next, file. You're filing at the district magistrate for holdover. You terminated the lease and they didn't leave. I'm going to guess with this person's legal history, you said they have a bit of like a record.
Yep.
People in that situation don't tend to play games with the courts. They don't tend to play games with the district magistrate over things like landlord tenant complaints. So if that's a fear you have, is that you're going to be going up against somebody who's very eager to like talk to the judge and get into this, it would be my guess that they're not. How does that hit you? Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
if it were me, I would be like, "No, I don't want to do that."
What do we do about over the next couple of months, the upstairs tenant? I mean, they're in recovery. They're now being confronted with somebody using drugs in their midst. I'm sure that's not a very healthy environment for them. How can we handle that?
Oh, should I keep them abreast of the situation?
Well, so what I don't do is like I've had this happen before, right? Tenant complains about other tenant. I find something legitimately going on and it does threaten the housing of the person who's violating the lease in some way. And it's very tempting. And of course, the complainer wants to know everything. It's their house. They're justified. This is their safety. I don't say, hey, tenant, I did this, that, and the other. I say we're handling it. I would never betray, your confidence, your information, and I'm not going to do it with that person, but no, I'm handling it as best I can. And you probably are going to ask of them to keep a record. So if it were me and I had that situation and I knew that it was potentially going to go on for a couple of months, I'm going to warn the first floor tenant, you've gotten a lease violation for this. Continued observances of this could result in police activity, could result in further lease violations, right? Something like that. What I want that person who's choosing to use drugs in that property to know is it's probably safer to do this somewhere else. It's probably better if I'm going to do this, to do this somewhere else or to hide it better, at least for right now. And then I'm going to empower my second floor tenants to keep a record, keep in contact with me, like let me know what's happening when it's happening so I can be armed in doing this for you. If you get to the point where you're presenting evidence of his violating the lease by doing this, you're going to have to bring in your tenants to testify because you don't have any other way to present that evidence in front of the judge. You didn't smell it or see it, right? Like that's the kind of thing. So it's complicated. Tenants don't often want to do that. All right. So you're going to be ready to get your property back on July 31st. And if not, you're going to be doing that landlord tenant complaint on Monday the 3rd because the courts have the audacity to be closed on the weekends. Um, Quick review of your lease. I drew two angry faces, and I just want to call them out here. Folks, when you have leases that have check boxes, I want you to go through and make sure that you've selected. That's some of what Jamie's done here. She didn't read it super carefully, and she was a little wrong in how she checked boxes, and then sometimes she didn't check boxes. One thing is under the security deposit. First of all, you don't need to say what comes out of the security deposit. The law does that for you, but you've locked yourself in here in a really dumb way. So there's a long list of things we can keep from the security deposit: unpaid rent, late fees, unpaid utilities, cost of repairs beyond normal wear and tear, cleaning, early term fees, all these things. And you've only selected the cost of the repairs. Versus the law lets you take unpaid rent. So, like, let's paint a picture where this tenant moves out, leaves the place nice, but didn't pay you the last month's rent, moves out before the hearing and everything. You're going to want to take that deposit to cover the rent they didn't pay. According to your lease, you can't. You just made your agreement more restrictive than the state. So we don't need to talk about that. We don't actually need to say anything other than we collected your security deposit in this amount and this is where it's stored. The law says what we can or can't do with it, how many days, all of that. But you did do a really good job remarking that only the one tenant, you have one occupant who's the leaseholder, is permitted to live in here. You've made that very clear. Unfortunately, the next sentence that says, any guest of the tenant shall not be allowed to stay beyond blank days without consent of the landlord. How many days? No one will ever know. So mom's not actually prohibited by this lease very strongly. Um, and then your early termination. I'm mad because you give them the tenant has the right to terminate this lease at any time by providing at least 60 days written notice to the landlord, along with an early termination fee of blank, otherwise known as zero. So you wrote a lease that requires you to provide this service for the whole year with no out, and you gave the tenant an out. If you believe in your heart of hearts, nobody should be bound to a lease like that without a way out. There's ways to do that compensate you. And I've even seen I want him to be able to get out with 60 days notice or 30 days. Fine, give yourself the same fucking right. It works two ways, and your lease very specifically only gives them that right. So when I reviewed things, you said, don't laugh at me, and I'm not. I want your agreement to really reflect your intention so that when you get into a pickle like you're in now, it's there to support you. The misconception is that the lease solves the problems. The lease is the tool that you clean and keep well so that when you go into a conflict, you have a tool you can use. It's not the lease that makes people behave. It's your enforcement of it. Well, I hope this Landlord 911 has helped. Folks, if you're willing to put yourself into the gauntlet, and I promise not all of them will take the full hour, but Jamie's such a hoot and she cusses and swears and I just love it. I want you to email me. Let me know what's going on. And if you're willing to record, I'm willing to do this. I will use a fake name. You don't have to go on camera. We don't have to talk about your town. This is a ballsy lady who's like, she lives life out loud, so she don't give an F. And neither do I, but some people do. And I want you to know that we can accommodate that as well. I'm looking for your real life stories that will help other people understand. And Jamie, I think a lot of people learned today that there's a lot of different ways to do this job of DIY managing your own properties and serving your goals. And they learned that it's okay to reach out and ask for help when they need it. Folks, you know what to do. I am just a little property manager in central Pennsylvania making free content out the wazoo for you. So you're going to get on the podcast player of choice. You're going to rate, review, and subscribe. It means so much to me. Please, please, please. And send me your emails. Make sure you're getting on holditwithpmjen.com to see all the wonderful things I'm sharing with you. And we're going to do what we do every day. Buy and hold forever and ever. Amen. Until next time.